Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Foxy New.
The problem with Terence Crawford fans, and look, let's break it down honestly and objectively as possible. And Terence Bud Crawford's a great fighter. He's an elite fighter. He's a 3-weight world champion. He's undisputed in back-to-back weight classes. Terence Bud Crawford is truly a generational talent. But with all that being said, Terence Bud Crawford fans believe two things. One, they believe that Terence Crawford never has to prove anything ever again, and he should be able to do whatever he wants. Two, they also believe that Terence Bud Crawford is able to beat any and everybody simply because he beat Errol Spence Jr. Now, those things make no sense because at the end of the day, let's break it down. First off, Terence Crawford beating Errol Spence Jr. makes no sense. Terence Crawford dominated a guy who couldn't make an adjustment, a guy who was slow, who's predictable, who you knew all these things about. When you look at it, you see that Bomac from Terence Bud Crawford's own team said the media hyped Spence as a great fighter. So Terence Crawford's own team says Errol Spence is not a great fighter. So what do you mean that Terence Crawford never has to challenge himself again? Because Errol Spence is not a great fighter, according to Team Crawford. And why does Terence Crawford get to pick and choose? He gets to reject a Jaron Ennis fight. He gets to reject a Jermell Charlo fight. But if this was Canelo or anybody else, they would call it ducking. They would say he's not fighting this mandatory. He's not fighting that guy. He's not fighting this guy. But it's okay for Terence Crawford to turn down all these fights and all this smoke because he beat Errol Spence? That doesn't make any sense. Who Team Crawford says is not even a great fighter. You've seen Terence Crawford say Errol Spence is not even going to the Hall of Fame. So he's not a Hall of Fame fighter. He's not a great fighter, and he's media built. And this is all according to Team Crawford. This is not my opinion. This is theirs. So according to their own logic, he's never beat a great fighter. He's never done it. Because Errol Spence is the best name on his resume, and if he's not a Hall of Famer, if he's not a great fighter, then you've beaten nobody. So according to their own logic, this man still has a lot to prove, but yet fans are saying, oh, he don't have to fight nobody. He can reject Boots. He can reject Jermell. He don't have to go to 160 and fight nobody. He should just get a massive payday because he's Bud, because he beat Spence very bad. That you're giving him a pass that no one else gets. And I'm sorry, I love Terence Crawford. I think he's a terrific fighter, but at the end of the day, he has a lot of flaws and vulnerabilities in his game. This guy's very hittable, and we've seen his chin get checked by a guy like Velasquez get dropped. Don't tell me he's unbeatable. Don't tell me he don't have to be challenged, and don't tell me he walks through everybody in boxing. Don't tell me that, because that's not the Terence Crawford we've seen. Just because Errol Spence is not a good enough fighter to capitalize don't mean no one else can. We still need to see how truly great Crawford is by him challenging himself, fighting other fighters, not just the same basic style. I mean, let's just be honest and unbiased. This guy, really, if we're honest about Terence Crawford, as great as he is, he only has one legitimate name on his resume, and that's Errol Spence. And that's a name they don't even believe is great. So let's just be honest. Terence Bud Crawford still has a lot to prove. He only has one name on his resume. He has to build up his resume. Because men lie, women lie, but the facts don't lie.